All right, I say we get going. Or you want to wait till like 5:05?
What do you think?
I say we just get going. Because I kind of off the bat, is there a show of hands of people who are doing
Nobody's even on the FaceTime.
a residential project that they're wanting to submit?
Yeah, we're trying to get a feel of like residential versus commercial, I guess.
We'll be doing residential.
Okay,
I'm residential as well.
great. Good to know. Um, so we'll go ahead and open it, and then I guess, and you can do this by like show of hands. Has anyone filled out the common application before? Or like put it in the chat?
Yeah, Lauren, that's smart. You can put it in the chat. That might be easiest.
Also, feel free to talk. There's not that many of us.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so I guess for people who have filled it out a few times or before, is there anything, what we're planning on doing for, the folks who have never filled it out is to walk through it, and the AIA on the side of the spreadsheet that you fill out for the Common App, typically there's lots of different resources. We have a couple of extra ones that we think are helpful for some of the metrics that people might not know an easy way to get, such as like the EUI or the embodied carbon.
Mhm.
Those are really the two that we have a couple extra resources. Otherwise, we're going to walk through what they have and the resources that they already have listed on the common application. So for people who have filled it out before, is there anything in particular that you're looking for, just so we can know as we walk through?
Yes.
I think just additional tips and tricks to making it a little less painless.
Okay.
And yeah, any resources you have would be great.
Awesome.
Because yeah, we've had to fill it out a couple times through ForgeCraft, or I've been at other firms and filled it out there as well. So I've probably done it like 4 times or 3 times or something like that. Olivia, I think you've done it.
Yeah, I do feel like the newest version, the one that we're walking you through now, has a lot more drop downs and a
Yeah.
lot less like writing stuff out. There's a couple of there's like sort of a narrative per section. I feel like especially the example that we're going to look at, we have one of the ones that's been filled out at our firm before at ForgeCraft for Teresa Passive House, and that one seemed to be a lot more writing. But this is a lot of yes or no, select from a drop down, and then sort of a general narrative, and then a couple of calculations.
And Jess Deaver is hosting a kind of what is she calling it? Like a storytelling workshop. And that's geared really to help people fill out the kind of longer statement pieces. Ingrid, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's holding it on the 26th and 7th, and then on the 3rd of March. So
27th, 28th, and the 3rd.
Okay.
Perfect. And I think those are kind of running out of spots. So if you're wanting help, I highly recommend registering for those now, or after this.
And those are, yeah, specifically geared toward more of the storytelling, so a lot of the narratives.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the metrics in the overall Common App. She's going to be focusing more on how to write sort of these like 200 words or less, describe how your building affects XYZ.
Yeah.
So I will get that app pulled up. Okay, first, actually, just for the new folks, are you seeing, I meant to pull up the other one. Here we go. Are you seeing the red at the top one? Okay, great.
This is the Teresa Passive House.
Yeah, so this is a past submission of that was done here at ForgeCraft, and you can see that once you fill out all of the metrics, it makes you this sort of spider web, which is kind of like a graphic representation of how you're hitting all of these different categories.
Mhm.
This is the old one, so we're not going to focus too much on it. We might like pop back to it, but just so you could see sort of the filled out spider web
Mhm.
here, and this is sort of summaries of all of the different sections. This is your output at the end, just to know what we're working towards.
Yeah,
Okay, we're back on the black. Which one are you seeing?
I'm still seeing the output.
Okay, what about now?
There,
Great.
perfect.
So this is the new Common App. It's a little more streamlined. I think there might be a couple of graphic issues you'll see here that are just from us having been working on it on Google Docs and then moving to downloading it for this on Excel. So I wouldn't worry about that. And will you monitor the chat, Robert?
Yeah, I am.
Great.
Hold on. So the question is, I have a basic question I should know the answer to. Does the Austin AIA Design Awards also use the Common Apps, just TSA? Yes, they use the Common App. So yeah, when we're filling out projects for the Austin Awards, we'll fill out the Common App as well.
So the first section on here is just project information. This is the stuff you'll all know about your projects. Really simple project
Yeah.
information, location and size, project scope, and here, renovation, new construction, interior only. A lot of these have drop downs.
I guess real quick, if your project's in Austin, we're in climate zone 2A.
Yeah,
But if the project's not in Austin, if it's in, I don't know, outside of Austin, ASHRAE has a website that will clearly tell what zone you're in.
which is right over here
Right
to the
here on the
side.
right, yeah.
So that's a easy find.
Mhm.
A lot of things over here are just right over to the side. Project scope, number of stories, cost data, permit year, construction building cost, cost per gross square foot. These are all things that you'll know. The 2030 commitment and rating system was something we wanted to touch on. So this is something that you can very easily do. It just sort of requires you signing up for 2030. That's over here. Robert, is there anything we want to touch on that?
So your firm needs to be on the 2030 agreement. For those who have no understanding, I'm gonna kind of start from zero. You have to kind of sign a pledge that by 2030 your firm is going to achieve net zero. Part of that is entering in projects with your EUI and other metrics into their database. Whether you're hitting that net zero number or not, you kind of need to be showing that you're moving towards it. By entering into the AIA 2030 thing, the minimum inputs that you need for it are just your energy use intensity, which is another metric down here, but it is something that's going to definitely help you with these award ceremonies entering in. It looks good for your firm. It looks good for your house to enter it in. It's kind of a US-wide database so that other people can look at how efficient and green you're being. So highly recommend that. If you want, there was a class that was taught, I think about a year ago. And we can provide a link to follow up with that for the kind of 2030 outline. But that should be kind of its own separate course in a lot of ways. But yeah, we can, I guess, kind of move on.
Yeah, and a lot of these questions here is just whether or not you're tracking it. So, you can answer yes to a lot of these questions by just signing up for 2030. It doesn't necessarily mean that your building's hitting any sort of metric. You just are saying, yes, we're tracking these things. So
Exactly.
that's the cool thing about this one is it's not necessarily, you didn't have to know about it when designing your building, you can sign up for it now.
Right.
Okay, design for integration. This one's missing questions. Okay, I'm pretty sure these are just, yeah, we'll look over here. These are overall descriptions of your building. Describe the project, emphasize the achievements of the program requirements, describe specific ways in which you've achieved and integrated these. These questions right here will be really good ones for Jess Deaver's workshop. If you have any specific questions for us on these are sort of general descriptions of your building. Describing the story of it, the client's goals. The second question is more of client's goals and the impact of the project. And then this third question, the statement of design excellence, is, describing why you think that your project is great, how it approached sustainability, how the project used design to benefit the occupants, community, and planet. So a lot of times these narrative questions have really good prompts next to them that are, what you would expect for something that you're submitting an award for. Community engagement level. So again, this is the nice thing with this one for people who have filled it out before. There are still these, 100-word max paragraphs on how you incorporated community engagement, but there's also these like simple pull downs of like inform, empower, consult, and how you engage the community. That is another thing where it's always super helpful. Right over here, the AIA is it showing my other screen? I think it's because I'm not sharing my whole screen.
Yeah, I think you're just sharing your window.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
So they have like a simple definition of what informing, consult, involve, collaborate, empower means. For most of the metrics, they have some sort of breakdown over here of where you can find anything that's not just you describing your building. For instance, social justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Does the project benefit people who are not directly associated with the project? That's a yes, no. A lot of these are yes, no, yes, no, and then you can, if so, provide an example. So again, you don't even have to write this one if you walk through and you're like, no, but I think we all know that in some way your building is always affecting the community. And so hopefully it's benefiting that, and that you should have something to say about how what you've designed is benefiting the community.
And this question on the right to these prompts are very good places for you to kind of start.
Yeah. Access. So does design accommodate low carbon modes of transit? Are they near bike lanes? Are they walkable in any way? You can look up the walk score of your neighborhood, things like that, that are really easy to provide an answer for. Access to nature, exposure to heat, or exposure to pollutants in the frontline communities. That's pretty broad. I'd say that if you are providing any sort of shading, that's public access. If you're planting, if landscape was involved where you're like planting native trees, or you can say that, you're bringing nature to your project, or you're minimizing heat exposure. If you were really, a lot of these questions, it's like, if your building did X, it's yes for a lot of these things. So exposure to pollutants in frontline communities. So even if your project, y'all really focused on using good materials, for instance, on or not on the red list, or is it on the red list or not on the red list? We're using the red list.
If it's on the red list, it's a good material.
Right, that's what I thought, but it's called the red list. So
Yeah,
sometimes I always like double
HPD, EPD,
Yeah.
Now, the
RICKle.
red list is bad things.
Right? The red
Right.
list is bad things.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're making sure that your building didn't use things on the red list, then you could say that, you're trying to minimize pollutants. Things like that. Does acoustic design consider the hard of hearing? That's one's really specific, yes or no. Does it include a real-time display of relative humidity, temperature? That's a yes or no. Like, does the AC or I'm losing my words. What's the thing on the wall? Where you see
Thermostat?
everything? Thermostat. Does your thermostat have any of these where you can display the temperature and the air quality in the space? That's an easy yes or no. Does your design address passive survivability? So that is in the context of the building being under extreme heat or cold stress, or if the electricity went out in your building, does it have any sort of capabilities to help maintain the temperature in a comfortable environment? If that's like, we put really good exterior shades so that the building could stay cooler.
PV, battery backup, generators, kind of passive house metrics, net zero, green energy kind of things.
Yeah.
All of those would kind of support that
If
movement.
you went above and beyond with insulation, or, there's lots of things that could fall under passive survivability strategies. Anything you did to make the building more durable.
Natural ventilation.
Yeah, yeah. How does your project enhance equity among building occupants? Identify how the project promotes equitable communities. Really good prompt over here. Global impact. So this is one of the big ones. This one got messed up on our end. You actually input. So another just like really quick thing, if it's not in gray, it's not an input you're putting in. So like, you don't need to mess with any of these. They all have formulas in them that are locked, and so you don't want to mess with them.
They'll be addressed lower in
Yeah.
other sections and then readdressed up here.
Yeah, so the global, the carbon, we'll go over that later. How you can get an easy embodied carbon calculation. And then it makes your operational carbon calculation based on that. So you don't have to do both of those.
Mhm.
You just need the embodied carbon and the EUI, and we're gonna go over that later. So I guess anything on these first sort of, so we don't get through it all, and
Yeah.
then have a lot of questions at the end. Anything on these first three sections that we have questions on? Or wanna just talk about more?
We're just doing that good of a job.
Right. Fabulous. We'll keep scrolling. Design for ecosystem. Again, a lot of drop downs. If you see this little box next to it, that means it's a drop down. Site and context environment. This is a very simple one. Urban, suburban, rural. Was the site previously developed? Yes or no? Does the site restore, preserve, or increase habitat of local fauna and pollinators? Again, if I would say 85% of the landscape, if not more, landscape designers you're using, if it's here in Austin, are planting pollinators. Like, that's pretty commonly done.
I think it also depends on how much your impervious coverage is reduced. And, I mean, a lot of commercial buildings have, destroy old ecosystems, and that's just kind of what happens. So sometimes it's no, largely residentially it's yes.
Yeah.
But check with native vegetation and landscape stuff.
Yeah.
On the right, there's a really good resource for this as well. It's got kind of some.
Over here is dark sky things for the sort of bird questions. But I think the thing to really hone in on here is restore, like Robert's saying, restore, preserve, or increase.
Yeah.
If like you planted some back and it was just because like you needed a nice entry space, maybe that's a no. If the project very much dedicated, like we're gonna be taking up this much space, this much impervious coverage, but we've really focused on making sure we have like, we saved these great trees, we made, you know, a pocket, prairie, those kinds of things, I would lean towards yes.
Mhm.
Does the site design align with dark sky standards? That should be a yes for anywhere here in Austin. We have to do that anyway. Does the project comply with recognized bird collision deterrence criteria?
There is a help metric on the right for that.
Yeah, that's what this stuff is over here. That will definitely affect more so the larger commercial buildings.
Yes. That's a big deal in the, or a new big deal in the commercial world.
Yeah. Optional prompts, over here for the ecosystems narrative are super helpful. And I think these kind of help you answer yes or no on the, does the site restore, preserve, or increase habitat for local fauna and pollinators? Thinking through this will help inform that question. How can the design support the ecological health of the place over time? Is sort of a really good way to think about it. Design for water, again, all yes or no's over here. Is stormwater managed on site? Is potable water used for irrigation after plants are established? Is gray or black water reused on site? These are all things that you would have, you know, designed for and will know yes or no. Does the project design meet EPA water sense goals for indoor plumbing fixtures? That is really simply answered over here.
Mhm. Just a quick summary, it's using kind of low flow fixtures, shower heads, faucets, sinks, all that kind of fun stuff.
A lot of stuff that in commercial projects you are probably doing anyway.
Yeah, if you're an AGB required commercial project, you have to be doing this for
Yeah.
the minimum right now, but
Were there strategies taken to conserve water tower usage and HVA systems? Does the project have a cooling tower? Again, I think these are things that you'll definitely know because they take effort to do.
yeah, lots of effort.
Design for economy, really simple questions about, these two are things that get filled out for you based on your information above in the project info.
Yeah.
That they do a calculation based on that.
Basically price per square foot though.
Yeah. Does the project address issues of affordability? Does the project reduce built areas by designing spaces for multiple purposes? I think this first one is like a clear yes or no. I think this one is something that a lot of us do anyway, you know, multi-purpose spaces. So
Mhm.
I think if you have any sort of multi-purpose space in your building, you can answer yeah on that. And then write more about all of that. Great prompts over here on the side. Okay, so now any questions on sort of 3, 4, and 5?
Just doing a good job.
Okay, let's make sure there's no water sense. We went over that. EPA fact sheet, social cost of carbon. These don't actually help you. These are more of an understanding of carbon and how they affect, you know, society and like the global cost to it. It's not so much calculating it. So, okay, we didn't miss anything over there. Let's move on to energy. This is the one that,
This is the fun stuff.
this is, yeah, a little bit more of the fun stuff. Energy code that you used, you'll know that over here. Is the building all electric? Benchmark EUI, which I think you actually fill in what that is down here.
Mhm. Yeah, just
Estimated-
remember if the box is white, you're not filling it in there. It's something auto-populated down below.
Yeah. Is the building all electric except for emergency power supply? Very easy, yes or no. How is the energy performance being tracked and recorded for this project? That's in over here. Actual with post occupancy data, simulated with an energy model. So if you did an energy model for your building,
Mhm.
select that one. It's not energy code minimum. Over here, you put in your different fuel types. And the amount. This is where you actually put in your EUI.
It's over there on the left. So you've got your electricity and kWh, and so your amount, and then it calculates the.
Oh, so this is where you would put in your EUI. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Just wanted to make sure that was
So
clear.
to chime in real quick, EUI is going to be kind of calculated in two ways purely. One is if you don't have an existing building, you need to run an energy model. In the commercial world, energy models are typically done through MEP subs and as kind of a basis of design. In the residential world, it's a little different. There are several different resources that we'll provide you guys with to be able to help you fill those out. However, coming from an energy modeling background and knowing a lot about this kind of stuff, it's not very easy to be to be frank about it. The resources we kind of have, you have to, let's focus on residential for a minute. Residentially, you'd have to look at your all of the appliances in your house. It includes the HVAC down to your refrigerator, down to plug loads. And you would enter in how much energy those use, into how much time they're used a day, and to then kind of a yearly average. So this is something that definitely would take a lot of time, and is something I think kind of worthwhile to get assistance with to do it correctly. Energy Pro is probably the best. It's probably the most user friendly. It's $200. It is there are lots of online classes and workshops to help you do it. But what you'll need is all of the kind of kilowatt usages from every single appliance in the house, and you'll need to have kind of all of that information gathered. However, there are a lot of companies in Austin that will provide these services for you that I'm sure would charge you about $200 or $400 as well. Which I mean, do what you think is best. There's also another tool called the from energy.gov, and this tool is free. This is more homework on your end again. But basically, yeah, if you just kind of want to go through an example, you can make up stuff like.
Right, so you'd want to take every appliance that you have in the project. You'd go, you'd select it, you'd put in the wattage, you put in the rating, you put in the hours used per day, and the uses per year, and then that's going to give you your energy use per year. So let's just
fill in some like fake numbers.
make this up. So then you'd add up all of these.
Yeah.
And that would give you, well, you'd add up all of those and then you divide it by the square footage, correct?
Yeah, no, so if you go back to the presentation or the Common App, it does that for you. So if you go back to the actual like Excel thing. Yeah, so you just need the kWh
Oh, great.
total, and then it helps you do all the other energy things.
Right, so then you would just, you'd do that for all of your appliances, and then you'd add it all up, and then you'd put it here, and then it would fill out the rest for you. And that would be for your, like your gas appliances and
Correct.
yeah.
The very difficult thing about that are things like heat pump systems for Mitsubishi or your air conditioning loads or those types of things. That's where kind of the Energy Pro tool comes in very handy. Again, this is if you don't have any energy data from the existing dwelling. If you have, I think up to 3 months, you're allowed to enter that data in as an average for the year. So you would take the 3-month bill, total it, divided by 3 to get the average, and then put that into 12 months, and then that would be your number for the KWH. But if it's a brand new building, then that's kind of, this is the other route you'd have to go down.
Yeah, so the Energy Pro and the adding up all of your, and we'll send this out to everyone after with just these quick links. The Energy Pro and the estimate of all of the appliances using energy.gov and adding all of those up. That's if you don't have 3 months of electric bills. If you have 3 months of electric bills, you can multiply that times 4 to get you 12 months. If you have a year already, that's the best. And you would put in, it's going to give you your total annual energy bill, and it's going to give it in the kilowatt hours, and then you can input that.
Do you want to show them the
Here.
Teresa one real quick? Because we have definitely all that info filled out. I think it'll help people grasp.
Here we go. It looked different. This one is, you did just kind of have to put in your EUI. It didn't calculate it for you. Like this one does.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one you had to calculate the EUI on your own. This one, the new one essentially does it for you. You just need to get your energy use for the year in
KWH.
KWH.
And that's something that's on your energy bill if you have one. So yeah. Does anyone have questions about that? I know there's kind of a lot of ambiguous things I feel like we're saying. It's kind of hard, I feel like, to directly quantify, but it's also a large task that probably not a lot of you have done.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Catherine Lee Dort with Austin Energy Green Building. And we've been working with University of Colorado at Boulder to come up with a simplified embodied carbon calculator. And I'm reviewing what they've done now, and I'm wondering, is it possible that maybe that would be something that AIA Austin would accept in the future as an alternative to Beam? Or, I mean, we can talk about that offline, but I'm just putting it out there that we're trying to make it easier.
So I don't think there is a exact, like you have to use
An app or this metric,
app or this metric to get
Uh-huh.
it that I know of. So that's why we chose, and we'll get to that later. That's why we chose Beam, is because I've done it before, and especially for residential projects, find it to be pretty quick and easy. If there's something else, it'd be great if you sent it to us and we'll look at it, and then we'll send it out with our, suggestions.
Okay.
It's ready. Yeah.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, when we get that done, I'll forward it along. Thank you.
Great.
Go Buffs.
Yeah. Robert's an alum.
Okay.
Okay.
So where were we? Now we are in embodied carbon. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, good transition.
I had a quick question on the energy. Maybe
Yeah.
we're still on the energy.
Yeah, we can stay
It
there.
looks
Yeah.
like we are. Yeah, sorry. You can feel free to get to that whenever you want to, but I had a question about an outdoor pavilion project, and
Uh-huh.
Just, I'm not able to sort of really follow along all the small print in the fields yet, but I guess the question is just, is it clear enough if for that kind of a project that doesn't have HVAC, traditionally speaking?
Yeah, so
Let's
do
get through the-
you have lighting or
Yeah.
bathrooms or any sort of infrastructure out
Yes.
there? Then those
Yeah.
are the numbers you're kind of applying to it. So this fortunately will work well to your advantage in
Very
this
well.
situation because you're not using much energy. I'm sure lighting loads are a lot if it's like a, I think Lauren, I know what project you're talking about. It's like a concert pavilion or something.
It's small, yeah. It could be, yeah, multi-purpose. It can be used for that, yeah.
So what you're gonna be looking at are like basically kind of peak loads and then how often it's used, you know, so and a lot of that is kind of best judgment. I know it's a new building, so I don't know how many, you know, performances or activities have been out there.
Yeah.
So what I would do is just kind of see what the peak load energy usage is when something's being used for the night and then kind of extrapolate that out into like a month, you know, on a, you know, on an average, say this pavilion's used 3 times a week. And so then that's, you know, 12 times a month. And so then you kind of average out those energy usage for that month, and then you can multiply that for the year. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the pavilion situation for this Common App is a little you know, you're gonna have to kind of be smart about how you fill in some of these areas, especially around like energy usage and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good question.
Yeah. It's also a little bit difficult in the sense of, as Elizabeth was just pointing out, needing to reach out to the owner for that kind of information.
Yes.
It's to their benefit because you're going after a design award, I suppose, so it's in their interest to
Yeah,
provide something, but still a
Yeah.
little odd. Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little awkward, especially when people are really busy to ask them to hunt that down, but hopefully they'll do it.
yeah, totally.
I don't believe that any of that information is public. I don't know. I don't think you can look up how much energy your
I don't
neighbor's
think you
using.
can.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
That would be too weird.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, and again, like if it's a pavilion and there's no natural gas and there's no district steam hot water, like obviously just put 0 in these amounts and you're good. You don't have to do anything further to prove that you're, you know, not using certain
Mhm.
forms of energy than that.
Hopefully you're only using electricity.
Yeah, on-site renewable energy systems installed. That's a clear yes or no. How is on-site renewable energy production metered by the project's utility company?
There's some good kind of sentences to the right.
Yeah, these things over
gross
here
or
will
net.
help you, but like, again, most of these this year are, unless it's a sort of narrative where you're describing how you think your project affects this category,
Mhm.
it's drop downs, yes or no, gross
Mhm.
metered, net metered, I don't know. And if along the way you have little questions about these things, for instance, Lauren, on your pavilion, if you want to, you know, sort of get that information and, you know, take that into a spreadsheet and then ask us any questions about it, you
Yeah.
know, feel free to reach out to us. And I think it's really good for anyone who's having to do any of your own calculations. If it's going off of, you know, 6 months of energy, is just make sure you have that documented in a spreadsheet somewhere
Yeah.
so that you can easily reference it if there are any questions about what you have going on. Because again, I think on a lot of these, if you're using an energy model, you know, you're getting an estimation based off that too. It's like pretty really accurate, but that's super documented. So just make sure if you're doing some other sort of calculation based on energy bills or going with the energy.gov and adding all of those things up, that you just keep track of it
Yeah.
in one place. Carbon actual calculation comes down.
Well, I guess, hold on, before we move on, the on-site total produced for your PV,
Mhm.
that is something that the PV company typically provides. So the homeowner, you'll get kind of like a cool app from Lighthouse or Freedom or whoever you've used, and that'll tell you how much you're actually producing. So if you don't know that information, reach out to the solar panel company, or typically solar panel companies like pride themselves on showing you how much energy you're producing. So it should be fairly straightforward.
I'm gonna make note of that on this little thing that we're gonna send out.
Mhm.
Okay. Back to the app. So like Robert said, total produced, net excess. Those are things that you will get from the
Mhm.
solar panel company. And then they will be used to calculate these things down here with the
Yeah.
with the other inputs from up here and
Mhm.
the carbon calculation, which is coming up.
Yeah, remember you only have to fill in the gray boxes, so don't get overwhelmed by the white ones.
Yeah, they're doing the calculations for you.
Yeah.
List specific technologies that were used for this building's primary systems, HVAC, lighting, water, heating,
Hmm.
just a narrative about the systems that you're using.
Yeah, this is a good chance for you to brag about
Yeah.
how cool your heat pump and mechanical system is, or how cool your solar panels are, or your ERV or dehumidifier, or all that stuff.
Yeah, good chance to reach out if you're not sure about some of that. I'd reach out to your MEP to just ask a couple of questions about what's going on, and then your design for energy narrative. So again, they've got great prompts over here. There are things that are really interesting, like user education and operational strategies. So I guess if you're in residential and you had a homeowner who was super interested in how their systems were working and they have like a cool app on their phone that helps them control everything, like that's something that you can write in as like user education, because they you provided that the building, has these systems that you coordinate with MEP to like figure out how it's working
Or
all
like,
together.
for commercial, it's an AGB point that you get if you put a TV screen in your lobby that explains how much energy consumption you're using and what kind of metrics you've taken to get there.
Yeah.
I think that applies mostly to probably commercial,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Energy Star, how to benchmark on site. So this is more of information on renewables. Design for well-being, glazing strategies, optimized for daylight lighting, thermal comfort, and visual comfort. Easy yes, no. Do regularly occupied spaces have operable windows? Easy yes, no.
Code requirement.
Code requirement. So if you're hitting code, you're good. Saying yes for that one. Does the design incorporate connections to the outdoors and opportunities for physical activities? Yes or no. These are all really simple yes or no's that you will know about your building, and then another narrative with good prompts over here. So human health, toxicity, chemicals of concern that were avoided. You made sure you didn't put anything on the red list. You research stuff or materials from Parsons Healthy Materials Lab, any extra, you researched EPDs and HPDs
Yeah.
for your products, any sort of extra mile you went to make sure that your building was healthier. If you really focused on air quality, that's something. You can talk about daylight metrics you used, spatial daylighting. Does the project contain any biophilic design strategies? Again, I think that's something that you'll know whether or not you researched and looked into and, really put into the project. But we did put in our resources that we're sending out, I found a good basic article on biophilic design principles. I mean, maybe you are doing something in your building and then you read that and you're like, oh, I actually did do a biophilic design principle. And then natural ventilation, outdoor strategies, you know, your typical connection to the outdoors, giving, I think, something that can be put in sort of this narrative as well as the equitable communities narrative is how much maybe control you gave occupants over their environment and being able to change it and being able to
Mhm.
you know, operable windows, acoustics, things like that, I think boost well-being, giving people control over their environments. So
Mhm.
you
I
could
think
definitely write that in as well.
residentially, a lot of these are an easy yes. I think commercially, if you're going through AGB, you'll be definitely aware of all of these things, but kind of gets a little bit more complicated sometimes there. But a lot of these metrics you should be aware of because they're kind of above and beyond the code minimum type building in commercial.
Okay, we'll go on to 8 and then we'll pause for questions. Did the project reuse any existing structure? Easy yes or no. What percent of the existing structure was reused? You can do a quick calculation of that, round to the nearest 10th. Identify the, and you know, I had to do that based on a square footage number.
That's how you do, yeah.
Identify primary structural system, concrete, steel, timber, mass timber, wood frame, mix, other. If you do other, definitely write that into your narrative. Was a whole building environmental life cycle analysis conducted? That's an easy yes or no. Here's a sneaky little one to just put in here. Provide total predicted embodied carbon results.
Yeah.
That can be a pretty big endeavor.
Yeah. So we've provided resources. There are a couple ones on the right to help you calculate these. I forget who from. Yeah, Catherine from Austin Energy was kind of talking about the CUs, one they're providing. I think, Olivia, you and I like
Yeah, I'll go over Beam really quick.
Beam the
So
most, yeah.
these, I personally don't know a lot about these. Let's click through them really quick. Oh, this is one that Robert, you've looked at before.
This one is maybe not enough information or the least amount of information, but if you don't know anything about it, it could be a gateway kind of thing to get here.
Yeah, it's really simple. I don't really think it's giving you a super great number, but it is a number to get. Fee scale. I think this is also a paid one.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, you know, there's Tally, there's One Click. Those One Click is probably the nicest, fanciest one that anybody's made. Then Tally's kind of below that. A lot of those are integrated into like Revit programs or ArchiCAD and stuff like that. But they're, you know, thousands of dollars a year. I think Beam though is free.
So Beam is free. This is one that I've used before that I really like. They don't pay me. I did give them a pull quote for their new launch of the 2. They do not pay me. I just think it's simple enough and also in-depth enough to give you sort of a good understanding of specifically the levers in I like it during design development and schematic design. It gives you an idea of what your levers are for change in your building. You know, let's look at it with this insulation and see how much better we do as example. But I think it's also really good for analysis. And I have an old version that I'm just going to walk people through. So you go to Beam, you go to download it, get your copy, you sign in. It's not behind a paywall. They do ask for a donation, but again, you don't have to at all, which is great. And so this is their older interface, but it's it's as simple as their new one,
Mhm.
where you go in and you put really basic information about your building, you know, things you already know, number of bedrooms, stories above grade, total floor area, above grade conditioned area, below grade conditioned area. And then you go and you put in some like really basic calculations about your building. I've done this as a study for one of our larger affordable housing projects, which is a little more difficult, you know, going through and measuring all of the continuous footings, but it's definitely possible, especially in you know, Bluebeam, pull up your plan set and get some basic measurements. Again, it doesn't have to be super perfect, but I do think it gives you a way better understanding.
If you have Revit, you can export your family types too and kind of summarize this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, put in the volume of your pads and piers. If you have really good takeoffs, it can also make this easier too. Foundation wall, foundation slab, exterior wall area, window area, party wall area, if there is any, interior wall area, framed floor area, finished ceiling area, roof insulation area, roof surface area, timber framing volume. And that's like your total volume of any like really heavy, like that's not like your average stud framing. That's like any really heavy elements. It gives good descriptions on the sides here. Yeah, and they even give you examples of like what takeoffs you could use for these things to get them.
Mhm.
And then if you have a separate garage, you put in that information here. And then after that, you just go through all of these tabs and it populates how much, you know, for example, concrete column footing pads and piers, and you would select what kind of concrete you used. And the great thing too is that they give industry averages. They have mostly Canada and North America. So if you're like, I don't actually know what concrete mix we used, but I know we had to get between this and this PSI by looking back at my structural set, you can just click a box. And so then you do that for all of the categories. Foundation walls, structural elements, and then the percentage is if like, so if half your building is steel and half your building is wood, you'd put say 50% in this, and then 50% on the structural steel category that you clicked.
Like a multifamily pedestal style building or something.
Yeah. Exterior walls, so and it goes by what's in the walls, the insulation, the continuous insulation, and then different wall materials. Yeah. And then later it will get to interior finishes and cladding. So basically you just scan through that, you select what applies to you, you do that for party walls, cladding. So this is where, you know, you already did your exterior walls for their structure and insulation. Here's where you address the cladding, the type of windows. And again, like here it was, you know, 34% of the windows were triple pane, the others were double glazed, so that was easy to break up. Interior walls, this is where you can select things like finishes. It will ask you to put in your frame spacing. It does that as well on the exterior walls. It's just to help them calculate it. Floors, ceiling, again, it'll ask you what percentage of what, roof, garage, and then review. So then you'll get this results page. And so that's where, you know, a good way to check yourself if it looks really wrong is if for some reason your exterior walls is like super, like that way higher than your footings and slabs, which would be odd. So maybe you like accidentally clicked 2 boxes instead of 1, depending, you know, so just sort of like do a gut check on that. And then it spits you out the number that you need. So this kilograms of CO2. And that is what you then put in.
It also tells you how good or bad you're doing. So
Yeah.
if you think you've gone above and beyond to make a low embodied carbon building and it's telling you you're super high, then check that as well. I think that's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and again, I don't know about what the tool that Catherine has suggested. We'll definitely look at it and send it out. But this is one that I think it definitely takes time. I'd say depending on how big your building
Yeah.
is. If you're doing a residence, I'd say that this would take me half a day to a day, I guess, if I'm just learning it.
Yeah.
If you have good take, you know, again, depending on like your takeoffs and if it's a building you are very involved in. I think before this one, for instance, I did when I first started working at this firm. So I didn't really know the building very well. So it took me longer to sort of track down all of these numbers.
It's mostly about taking area takeoffs,
Yeah.
volumetric stuff. So
Yeah.
if you have Revit, it should be very easy.
Yes. Okay, and so I guess we'll go ahead and like pause there and ask for questions on getting embodied carbon.
No, you just killed it.
Great, and again, if you decide to use the beam tool, it's really easy to use and they have like courses, videos, all of that. They made this originally as a tool for evaluating like residential, so they can also, I've used it for commercial. All right. So then were design strategies implemented to substantially reduce material or embodied carbon?
It's a yes or no.
That's a yes or no. Please select the following if yes or no, sort of what you optimized or how. Again, if you reduction of glazing, which is also, you know, daylighting strategy. So was local and or recycled content a major criterion for material selection? Was wood used on this project FSC certified? Those are all things you would have specified. And then design for resources narrative. Again, this one has tons of prompts on the side. I don't see anyone having difficulty answering that one. With all of these prompts.
Lauren asked a question about documentation needed to back up calculation and metrics. Yes, I would keep all documentation that you've used to obtain this.
But I don't think it's necessarily like asked for. Like, I don't know, we used Beam when we submitted Teresa. I don't know if they asked us to like send them our calculations, but
Right.
I 100% would just
I would just
save
keep
it
it
just in case.
in case, you know, it's like, I use 0 embodied carbon on this. And then people are like, that doesn't make sense.
Right. Like
You
they're
know?
probably going to reach out if it looks.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm a little hesitant to suggest the build carbon neutral tool, just because I don't know how accurate a number it's
Yeah, it's square footage and building type.
gonna
And,
get you.
you know,
Just at least within the actual body of the Common App, it's not, you're not attaching documents at the end of, before you submit. Okay.
you would not
No.
know. Yeah.
Okay.
Just what we've done in the past when we've submitted these things is kept it all just in case someone asks, because you are doing a lot of work to get these numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, our last two, design for change and design for discovery. Design for change, lifespan of the building. They give you a really clear sort of chart over here for how long they think these certain building types can last. If for some reason it was a really big thing in your project to make it the like most durable stick frame project ever, like go ahead and put that in here, but really only if that was something that you truly like looked into. Otherwise, I'd go off of what they have here.
Yeah, definitely.
Was the building designed for disassembly? Again, answer yes if structural members are bolted rather than nailed or welded. I don't know, how would you say that would apply to a stick frame building? Would you say yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's stick frame, go ahead and say yes. That one's kind of odd. Is there one, Robert, where you'd say like, definitely answer no if it's this? Because it really only mentions steel here. Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think I'd kind of go with what it has up here, 100 years for concrete and 1,000 years for solid masonry. If it's one of those, let's maybe say no on this one.
Yeah.
Would be my advice.
Yeah, that's same.
Was future flexibility designed into the program? A yes or no? I think that's one that you would definitely want to address here. If you said yes,
Yeah, adaptive reuse, kind of making sure that your building can be an office space or turned into multifamily. That's like becoming a big deal right now. Yeah.
And I'd even say that if, for instance, we have clients who are really interested in like intergenerational housing and designing to age in place, if that's something you really looked into for your residential project, I would definitely categorize that as future flexibility.
I agree.
Or even if it's like, we're a couple now, but we plan on having 8 kids. I mean, there's something in that too.
But all of these things again are great to back up in this kind of narrative below.
Definitely. If I think that goes for the whole thing, is that in these yes or no's, addressing it some way along with the prompts, in the narrative is going to be really helpful, because if you say yes to future flexibility, but then there's nothing about that in the design narrative, I think that's going to not be an A+.
Every time you answer yes, I would say that there should be some sort of a sentence in this narrative to back it up.
Yeah.
Explaining why.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Identify local risk that the project has been designed to mitigate.
Fire.
Yeah, fires, extreme hail. That could go into like your structure or your roof type, power outage, especially if you're doing any sort of,
Battery backup, solar panel.
yeah, it's the same thing for the passive survivability we talked about earlier. Again, in the equity section, it talked about, are you providing shade or habitat? Both
Yeah.
of those things go towards relieving extreme temperatures.
Yeah.
So just thinking really holistically about your project, there are certain things that if you answered yes to somewhere else, you can answer yes to down here.
And then yeah, just back up those answers in the
Yeah.
narrative below.
Identify a local risk that the project has been designed to mitigate. That's what I already said. Has the design considered the impact of environmental or social risks over the building's lifespan? Yeah, so this is when you're definitely, if you answer yes, you're going to want to back up. That's definitely something you would have designed for. Okay, design for discovery. Was a post-occupancy evaluation planned for? Simple yes or no. Was the occupant satisfaction survey planned for, or will it be conducted on this project? Were improvements made, or will they be made during occupancy-based findings? So these are all things that you'll know about your project. And then there's lots of prompts down here. Again, if you answer yes for these things, address it down here. And again, like if you're, some of these things that sound like for a commercial building, especially we do a lot of affordable housing here. There's lots of post-occupancy reports and sort of findings that get done there. And it's even things like, oh, well, we went and we, talked to everyone when we were, when there was like an article being written about the place. Like if you're that, I wouldn't qualify that in any way as a report, but it's something that you could mention down here. Like I wouldn't say yes to a planned evaluation, but you could be like checking in with the residents after. You can expand on ways that you might have done that down here.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions about these last two metrics?
Okay. How about just anything
Yeah,
in
any
general?
overall.
Okay. Well, we will provide the people who attended this our email in this follow-up, and we will also provide you guys with these kind of extra PDFs with resources and guides. As you're going through this, please, if you have questions, reach out to us. I mean, we have jobs as well and, time, but if you are beating your head up against a wall constantly, just, please reach out. We've got resources. We've got people through other COTE membership communities that we can reach out to, like Jedi and all these other things. So yeah, please, use resources. I think Jess Deaver is probably one of the more important ones, and we can send you guys those dates as well for the workshop. Ingrid, I think, said that there were only like 2 or 3 more spots available for some of them, so we gotta make sure that y'all are on it. And then Claudia, I think you're still on here. Claudia's in charge of the design awards. Did you want to say anything? 9
Yeah, I'm
spots.
still here. Yeah, no, thank you guys for obviously hosting this. I know this information is super helpful for anyone who's never done Common App or has done it and it just needed a refresher. So thank you guys for putting this together. This will be super helpful. And yes, a shout out for Jess, who will be having her sort of office hours at the end of this month. So sign up for those if you are interested in hearing more about the storytelling portion of the submission. And she'll be helping on that. And again, thank you to our sponsors for this event as well. They're working in the background. But yeah, thank you guys for showing up. And if you have questions regarding not Common App stuff, but just general application questions for submissions for design awards, reach out to myself or Jess or Ingrid, and we're happy to answer anything you kind of stumble upon.
All right. Well, this was fun, y'all. Thanks for attending, and yeah, use your resources.
All right, bye everyone.
Hi, everyone. Can't wait to see your submissions.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.